Chamge mising chitab Kalenjin among ole chomegei eng ola tugul ole nyorune tugetab Kass TV eng saishechu. Kakoit kasarta age nekakenyoru kasarta ne inegei eng betutab rani. Kitinye kelchin neo mising kimache kekuye boisionik chebo agenge eng kibagengeisiek chebo ministry noton nebo somanet, kibagenge nenaat mising kou Kenya National Qualification Authority. Kimache kekuye kele tos kibagenge ni kotokyinigei ne boisionik chi kikitou au ako tos agoi nguni ko boisionik chi kamuch kosuldae ko ne. Ko kitinye kelchin neo mising eng betutab rani kimite ak CEO nebo kibagenge noto bo Kenya National Qualification Authority noto ko Dr. Alice Kandie. Dr. Alice Kandie, karibu sana kwenye Kass TV.
Thank you so much, Bernard.
Yes,
happy to be here.
Okay. So we'll delve directly into the interview. What is Kenya National Qualifications Authority?
The Kenya National Qualifications Authority is an agency under the State Department for TVET within the Ministry of Education. And it is an agency whose purpose and mandate cuts across the entire space of education and training. And so we normally like clarifying that in as much as the authority is domiciled within the State Department for TVET, our function is not just within the purview of TVET, but cuts across any institution or any space that deals with education and training. Because our role is to ensure this harmony, the standardization of the education and training process. And most importantly, the result of that process, which is qualifications. And that is why we have that term within our name of the institution, qualifications. Our focus then is on qualifications to ensure that any form of qualification coming from any institution, whatever the level from the lowest to the highest, it is a credible qualification. And there cannot be credibility if there's no standard way of defining how do we see a credible qualification looking like. So that is where the Kenya National Qualifications Authority comes in to implement the Kenya National Qualifications.
When were you founded, and before you were founded, who used to do this role?
The Kenya National Qualifications Authority, Bernard, was founded or instituted in the year 2015, precisely through enactment of an Act of 2014. That is the Kenya National Qualifications Framework Act of 2014. And that was as a result of culmination of discussions right from many years back, since actually post-independence, 1960s, where this country was looking at how best we can have qualifications address the needs of the industry, how best we can have already a fragmented way of education and training in the country being harmonized. And so it was created after a raft of discussions to see how we can harmonize the institutions that offer education and training. And so Kenya National Qualifications Authority came in after a number of institutions that is already oversighting were already there. But it came in to address already a problem that was there, or do I say problems that are already there? We're a country that is so keen in terms of building human resources for development of yourself as an individual, but also to contribute to building this country. And so we talk about having human resources who are capable of driving this country to the next level. And so education and training is really perceived to be a key to that. But however, it was seen that in as much as we have that focus as a country, our practices are rather fragmented. And so we see from basic, we get to TVET, we get to universities, we get even to professional bodies, or in the endeavor to ensure that we are training, we're educating, we're certifying people. But then we realized as a country that it is still a problem somewhere. And as there, these institutions are operating in silo. And you would attest to the fact that over time, If, for instance, one is coming with a certificate or a diploma from a TVET institution, and they would want to progress to the next level, like pursue a degree, that person, if they approach different universities, they would actually be handled differently. There was no harmonized way of indicating that coming from level 6, which is a diploma, how is it, or how would that person be admitted to a university, but in a harmonized? So if I go to University A, I would still be admitted the same way if I'd go to University B and C. And so that is where the Kenya National Qualifications Framework was created, with the purpose of providing this harmony, with the purpose of putting together now what we call, or we refer to as, sub-frameworks of education and training. And these sub-frameworks are the ones that build into the National Qualifications Framework. Allow me to say that then we have 3 main sub-frameworks. One running from basic to university, we call it academic. And this is where majority of us have gone to school and were lucky enough not to drop out from primary, you went to secondary, you went probably straight to the university. There are others who joined the TVET pathway. Now, that is another pathway, separate from what we're calling the academic. Because you'd find someone from high school, they go to a TVET institution. Essentially, this person should find a way to seamlessly, maybe even move to this academic pathway and go to a university. And that is where also we're coming in. Now, there's another sub-framework that we call the skill or the industrial pathway. We like calling industrial pathway because all these frameworks currently, we talk about skilling. But there's that industrial pathway. You know about National Industrial Training Authority that mainly focuses on people who are already probably working, they're in the industry, but they would want to be assessed and certified. I will be talking about recognition prior learning later after this. We also have other institutions like professional bodies who offer various courses. So how do we put all these together, knowing that we are all addressing a common good, offering a common service to this country? So this is where the Kenya National Qualifications Framework comes in. Yes.
What is the procedure of you undertaking your daily activities, like matching a qualification, for example? If someone maybe has a diploma from an institution, maybe locally or abroad, how do they go about making sure that their qualification is brought up to standard by the agency?
Thank you, Bernard, for that, because you speak to a very critical component of the National Qualifications Framework, because one of the purposes of having the framework is to ensure that there is comparability of qualifications that are locally obtained or qualifications that are obtained from our local institutions, and we find a way of mapping them in the framework. Meaning that if someone comes with a foreign acquired certificate, that person will not be disadvantaged when they want to probably pursue a course in our local institution, but we would find a way of placing that certificate or that certification within the framework. Allow me to say that the National Qualifications Framework, we say it is a 10-level framework. And it captures all the key levels where one could probably exit at any point or progress at any point. Meaning that if one, for instance, looking at our education system, and allow me to refer to the 844 system, in as much as we're also looking at CBC, there's some people who exit at primary. And that doesn't mean that they're not able to progress with their career. In a way, they would find themselves in the industry, and at some point, but they would find that they're able to still get back to the education space and they're assessed. Some people will get to Form 4 and they exit at that point. Others will get to diploma. So we have itemized that and provided that in terms of levels, where level 1 is the lowest. In this case, for the 844 would be the KCP certificate, and level 10, which is the doctorate. So each of those is mapped in the framework, including the qualifications that are required from the TVET sub-framework, including qualifications that are required from the industry pathway, like for instance, what is done by National Industrial Training Authority. And this framework ensures that one can seamlessly move from one sub-framework to the other. I did mention about that. So how do we then ensure that if you come with a qualification, and how do we go about it? First of all, allow me to say that we have unpacked the National Qualifications Framework. And when we talk about the levels, it means we have articulated what is expected of each level, be it level 10, which is the highest, be it level 1, which is the lowest. They're what we call the domains, the skills, knowledge, attitude, competencies, all unpacked in a way that the learning outcomes of what, like a qualification, a level that you pursue, assuming that you've done a degree, we would be able to really see how distinct is it from one who is supposed to show that they have acquired a diploma, which is level 6, and what would be required of them to now move to the next level. There needs to be very clear articulation, and that is why we say that it is a system for articulation, it is a system for classification into specific levels, it is a system for quality assurance as well. So again, to address that question, we ensure that the qualification that one comes with, we are really able to first of all check, was it acquired from a duly accredited institution? And that is where, Bernard, our key players come in, they come on board. When I talk about sub-frameworks, I talk about the basic I get to university. You know, there's Commission for University Education that accredits the programs in the universities, that accredits and charters universities. That is accreditation. When you talk about the TVET sub-framework, there's a TVET authority. When you get to the industry, I did talk about the NITA and others. We also have professional bodies. So what the framework does is to provide, for instance, if it is accreditation, because we are the ultimate, we say users, or the ultimate holders of what you as a candidate, you go through an institution. That certificate must be registered in the National Qualifications Framework database. And so it must follow what has been provided by or guided by the National Qualifications Authority. So how we do this is that we provide at Apex, at high level, what the subsector regulators would do. For instance, let me talk about accreditation of institutions, because we wouldn't recognize your certificate and say it is in this level if you pursued it, or one pursued it from an institution that is not accredited. As the authority, we've provided, in conjunction with these players that I've mentioned, CUE, TVET, and others, a national accreditation system. And so the process that is followed by these subsector regulators, it is what has been cascaded from this apex level. So that ultimately we are also confident of the certificate that we're getting to register in the database, and ensuring that there's quality assurance that is done harmoniously and in a standard way. Because what the subsector regulators are doing is in harmony with what is provided at the apex by the National Qualifications Authority. And so it gets easy then, because we would just look at the credibility of the certificate that you bring in terms of, is it from an accredited institution, is it registered in our database? If it is a foreign acquired, we also get in touch with the institutions from where one pursued. And right now it is easy because as KNQA, we are at a space where we are very active in working with our sister institutions regionally and continentally, and even globally. In Africa, currently, over 40 countries, actually precisely 44 countries out of the 55 that we have a form of national qualifications authority, all pursuing like the same mandate that we're having, because we all realize that there's need to ensure harmony, consistency in the way we look at our qualifications. Globally, out of the 195, over 150 have a form of national qualification framework. And so it is a conversation that is so active, not just in our national space, but also in the regional and continental space. So why I have introduced that is because you talked about if someone comes with a foreign qualifications, how we do it. It gets easy because there's now that mutual trust that is being built, courtesy of having a national qualification framework and a national qualification authority that is spearheading implementation of a framework that is allowing for comparability of qualifications nationally and, from wherever the qualification is coming from.
As to why I was asking that question, Dr. Kandie, is you find in some African countries, the qualification to pursue, for example, a degree is much lower than in Kenya. In Kenya, it's a C+. So you go to a foreign country, you find a university giving out degrees at C star or C-. How do you go about that?
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bernard, for that question. There's something we call referencing of qualifications. I did mention earlier that the Kenya National Qualification Framework is a 10-level framework, where each of the levels is clearly articulated on what is it that we would want to project as showing, demonstrate that they actually deserved this certificate if it is a diploma level 6. Of course, knowing very well that there are some countries that would use the term diploma for any other level of certificate, even a high school certificate. Some countries would call them diploma. Some countries would call even a PhD a diploma. So how do we distinguish this? I did say that the National Qualification Framework, it actually classifies. It first of all breaks down what is it that was expected of this particular qualification. And that is a conversation that we are having with our sister institution. And so we are all in agreement that a diploma is not just a diploma. A certificate is not just a certificate. It is about unpacking what was the expected outcome for that particular level. And to probably go into some details to give some terminology, we say there's what you refer to as level description. So this is actually where we unpack. And we are collaboratively now working with this institution so that if one comes with a certificate that shows that they were actually given a diploma in a certain country, for us to recognize that and to map it in the National Qualification Framework and say that it actually fits at level 6, which for us is a diploma, we would also have to look at the history of that particular person. So what is it that they had before they joined? Because there's a specific criteria. What are the requirements for one to pursue a course at a certain level? Did you first of all meet that? If that country probably waived that, for us here, we shall not waive. And that is in agreement. So that is where we are actually having, of course, some complaints, because someone would say, but I was given a certificate in country A, a diploma in country A. Why are you not recognizing? Because we must protect the nature, the status, and the integrity of our qualifications. And remember, we're saying that we are not just mapping it for the purpose of just saying it is a diploma. We want to ensure that it allows you or the other person an opportunity to also now go to the next level. And you see, we're working very, very closely with actually all the stakeholders, but very critically. For instance, let me talk about law. For law students, they would go to the Kenya School of Law. And the Kenya School of Law, they have very specific and very strict criteria. And the same with engineering and all these other spaces. And so even for us, we have to give this assurance of enforcing from the lowest. And so that is why the framework speaks to from the lowest level. We want to look at the history. How do you build up? But the fortunate part of it is that the framework is also very flexible. We say it is a flexible learning outcome-based framework. And that is why we say it was a reform, very good realization for this country, because one thing that the framework came in to address when we were able to enact it from 2015 is that we are able to avoid wastage in terms of what one has learnt along the way. So if, for instance, unfortunately, I did not get a C+ to go directly to pursue a degree, I can start from wherever the level. I can even start from certificate and climb up. But my history shows where have I come from, what qualifications did I have, what have I acquired. So I did a certificate, then I am able to climb up. I've done a diploma, I'm able to climb up like that. So it opens doors, it gives wings to people to really move up, but not without really ensuring that we are also ensuring it's a watertight, protected.
From the way you speak, Dr. It looks like you have your work cut out. So let's take a short break. When you come back, you will tell me the achievements of KNQA so far.
Thank you, Bernard.
Chitab Kalenjin kimite ak CEO nebo kibagengeitab Kenya National Qualifications Authority Dr. Alice Kandie kimite eng ofisinyi eng taonitab Nairobi ole tesetai kwarorwech kotinygei ak boisionik chetokyinigei kekanapta somanet eng emetab Kenya, mising ko somanet noto nebo barak. Kekas akoi nguni kakomwa ortinwek chekiboisie keker kele somanet noto anan certificates chekikoito eng sukulishekab barak ak chebo kwen kobun emoni ak emotinwekab sang koityi magutik tugul chemokotin asikobit keker kele kakirib itonda nebo somanet eng emetab Kenya. Kimache kenyoru kamung'enenwach ko yekiwege ko nyiketesetai ak Dr. Alice Kandie arametwagei.